Buenas tardes, boa tarde, good afternoon. Mi nombre es Marcelo Knobel. I am Marcelo Knobel. I will switch to English so that we can have our guests speak in the same language. Welcome to this seminar about the role of the academy in Israel, from the startup nation to the impact nation. We will have now the presentation of the three universities, an institutional presentation by the three universities from Israel, and then we will have the presentations by our guest. The first one to speak is Marisa Bergman, Executive Director of the Friends from the Hebrea University in Argentina. Marisa, por favor.
Gracias, Marcelo. Mi nombre es Marisa Bergman, represento a la Universidad Hebrea de Jerusalén y es un honor compartir este espacio junto a las universidades de Tel Aviv y de Haifa. La Universidad Hebrea se encuentra entre las mejores 100 universidades del mundo, según todos los rankings académicos. Desde su formación hace más de 100 años, sentó las bases junto a las otras instituciones que hoy nos acompañan para que Israel pueda convertirse en la nación de las startups. Ha cosechado 8 premios Nobel y otras distinciones de prestigio internacional. Sus 315 departamentos académicos alojan a los 24.000 estudiantes de Israel y otros 2.000 de todo el mundo, ofreciendo una amplia selección de títulos. La Universidad Hebrea sigue firmemente comprometida con su papel como líder de investigación y se encuentra en la vanguardia de la innovación y el espíritu empresarial, albergando en sus 6 campus más de 100 centros de investigación y 3.800 proyectos en curso. En este sentido, la universidad está particularmente orgullosa de su empresa de transferencia de tecnología ISUM, que se encuentra entre las estructuras de incubadoras más productivas y exitosas del mundo. Ha licenciado más de 530 tecnologías y cada año registra más de 50 nuevas patentes que dan origen a nuevas startups. Su caso más emblemático es Movilidad, adquirida por Intel, una de las tantas empresas que invierten en la investigación que se desarrolla en Jerusalén. Para mantener esta posición como una de las mejores 100 universidades del mundo, se están llevando adelante varios proyectos edilicios para un mundo mejor. El UJI Tech Park, un complejo que reúne academia y tecnología para formar a quienes serán los próximos protagonistas en esta transformación a una nación de impacto. El centro Next, que combina la cuántica y la nanotecnología, y el centro UJI para la innovación, poniendo foco en el emprendedurismo y la necesidad de generar condiciones favorables para el floreciente mundo de las startups. De este modo, la universidad asume el desafío de lograr impactos positivos en la comunidad y está comprometida con mejorar el mundo, haciéndolo más sustentable a través de sus proyectos y de sus investigaciones. Quiero agradecer muy especialmente a nuestra profesora de la Universidad Hebrea, Nurit Argov, por la participación de hoy, y a sus colegas de la Universidad de Tel Aviv y de Haifa, y a todos ustedes por estar hoy aquí presentes. Muchas gracias.
In one of the oldest cities in the world, we are witnessing a thriving era of innovation, and the Hebrew University is at the forefront. Our game-changing work has transformed the way people drive, advanced the development of animal-free meat production, made the world a more secure place by enhancing crime-fighting technology and cybersecurity, and are creating a greener planet by developing biofuel through nanotechnology. In a country with the most startups per capita, we are leading the way. Our research has led to over 130 commercialized ventures, more than 10,000 patents registered, and over 2,800 inventions. In 100 years, we've gone pretty far, but our greatest achievements are still ahead of us. Join us in harnessing Jerusalem's innovation for the benefit of people everywhere. The Hebrew University of Jerusalem, a tradition of innovation.
Now I call André Choussid, a representative from the International School of University of Tel Aviv.
Muchas gracias. Me llamo André Choussid, muchísimo gusto. Yo soy representante de la Tel Aviv University International, la oficina internacional de la Universidad de Tel Aviv para Latinoamérica. Mi función es auxiliar todas y todos en los procedimientos de aplicación para nuestros más de 60 programas internacionales, 100% en inglés, Contamos con programas de carrera, programas de posgrado, programas cortos de verano y también programas de maestría. Hoy, por parte de la Universidad de Tel Aviv, tendrán la oportunidad de escuchar al doctor Jacob Mendel, y él es un experto en ciberseguridad. Nosotros ofrecemos 2 programas en el tema de ciberseguridad, 100% en inglés. Un programa corto, Fundamental Technologies of Cybersecurity, que como pueden ver, junto con otros programas, los ofrecemos como programas cortos de verano. Y también ofrecemos una maestría en Cyber Politics and Government, así como ofrecemos otras maestrías 100% en inglés que se pueden fijar acá en la pantalla. Entonces van a escuchar acerca de un tema interesantísimo hoy, y después, si quieren profundizar más, tenemos también programas en estas temáticas. Cualquier duda, cualquier necesidad de apoyo en la aplicación, están aquí mis datos, mis contactos. Pueden también sacar una foto del código QR y luego tendrán mis contactos. Envían para quien les parece que pueda interesar y estaré a disposición para ayudarles con todo lo que necesiten. ¿Está bien? Muchísimas gracias, disfruten mucho del evento, preparámonos con mucho placer. Entonces, nos hablamos en un rato. Un abrazo, muchas gracias.
Tel Aviv University International, the only place in the world where you can study Taoism. What is Taoism? Well, it's a local philosophy that says the best way to study is through experience. Understand with your head, learn with your feet. The best way to study a multicultural society is to live in one. Be ready with your elevator pitch. You never know who you'll meet on campus. If you want to learn the best marketing strategies, just go to the local market. Reading about the startup nation? Write your own chapter. Study literature in the place that inspired the bestseller of all time. You can't resolve a conflict until you witness one. At TAU, there is always room for more questions and 400 labs to find the answers. Come experience the wisdom of Taoism at Tel Aviv University International, where first-class education meets a second-to-none lifestyle.
Now I would like to call Carolina Birenbaum, a representative from the International School of University of Haifa.
Gracias, Marcelo. Thank you very much. I will speak in Spanish, okay? Sorry. Bueno, como Marcelo ya dijo, soy la representante de la Universidad de Haifa. Trabajo ahí hace 9 años y Haifa surgió como un brazo de la Universidad Hebrea. Entonces nosotros estamos aquí todas coligadas como una hermandad. Y decidimos hacer este evento para mostrar que somos fuertes juntos. La Universidad de Haifa tiene 54 departamentos, dividida en facultades. Tenemos un campus actualmente considerado verde. La International School, la cual represento, tiene programas en inglés para maestrías, postdoc, doctorados y study abroad. También hay gap year para las personas que quieren ir a pasar un tiempo entre la escuela y la universidad. Es una propuesta muy linda para conocer y después encantarse y venir a estudiar con nosotros. Como Andrea y Marisa dijeron, tenemos un enorme placer en tener los profesores Mendel, Strier y Argov aquí. Muchísimas gracias y vamos a aprovechar nuestros palestrinches. Gracias.
You want to experience Israel, huh? Well, you didn't hear it from me, but the place to do this is called Haifa. Israel's third largest city, Haifa is definitely its friendliest. a surprising, dynamic metropolis with a sweet, low-key attitude in the middle of some of Israel's most gorgeous scenery. And right at the top, you've got the University of Haifa. If Haifa is the best of Israel, then the university is the best of Haifa. Arabic, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Druze, Baha'i, beach, mountain, industry, high-tech, academic excellence, and an active student life. It's all right here. Here you get a panoramic view, not only of the Galilee and the Mediterranean, but of everything a top academic institution has to offer. Aside from academics, we've got tours, trips, lectures, campus activities, concerts, conferences, sports activities, and that's just the beginning. Here, you'll be who you want to be, because this place lets you be who you are.
Vamos a seguir entonces. Sorry about this confusion of languages. Here we speak Portuguese, Spanish, and English, so we are here a little bit, in this confusion. So maybe, if you agree, let's go. We have already the speakers here, and then we can proceed for the speakers, and then we launch the videos from the universities at the end of the event. If you agree, that would be maybe the best thing to do. So to start, I would like to call quickly Professor Nurit Argov-Argaman. She is Associate Professor, a Women's League for Israel Senior Lectureship in Nutrition of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. She works in different areas of the quality of the food industry, and she will speak about probably about this idea that she developed for several years to develop biomilk. So let's hear Professor Nurit. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to share with you my research. Also, it's a good opportunity to actually acknowledge the university and the ISUM, the tech transfer company of the Hebrew University, in enabling to transfer an idea from the lab to the actual industry, and to try to actually work on an idea that started in a lab, to actually try to change the food industry. And I'll talk today a little bit on my research, a little bit on my background, and a lot on Biomilk, which is the company that we established 1 year ago, and is on the ground, so to speak, from February 2021. So it's a very new facilities, but which already made some advancement in the area that we're investigating. So starting with myself, I'm from the Hebrew University, as was mentioned, and I did all my degrees, my academic degrees, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree in animal sciences in the Faculty of Agriculture, working on dairy animals. Basically from 2006, I'm working on the lactation process, which is a process of making milk in the mammary gland of different mammals. So as you can see, we worked on cows and sheep and goats, and also on rats and mice and pigs. And we had some human trials as well, working on breast milk. And all throughout the last 15 years, while I'm studying milk, it was always on the process of milk production. So I'm not a food technologist. I'm not looking at milk as the raw material that I'm trying to change. For my research, milk is the end product, is the product that we're trying to make in a much more efficient way. And we're trying to also control its quality and everything in the animal itself. Whatever mammal we're talking about, always we're talking about the process of the lactation, the process of making milk in the mammary gland cells. And throughout the years, we've been done a lot of studies, but I want to share with you the latest one to give you in a nutshell a glimpse of what was the aim of our studies, again, throughout the last 15 years. So this study, we looked at dairy goats, and we tried to figure out if grazing, so allowing them to choose in an open area, whatever they want to eat, provides us some kind of benefits in terms of the yield of milk, okay, and the quality. So just quickly, you can see here that the goats that were allowed to graze compared to the goats that stayed indoor under confinement produced higher amounts of milk, so more milk, and the milk had more protein and more fat in it. And they ate practically the same. We didn't change the amount they ate, we didn't change the energy consumption, but somehow something in their food that they chose alone, we allowed them to choose, made their milk better. So higher in protein and higher in fat, and these are qualities that the industry is pursuing, the milk industry is pursuing, because it means that you can make more cheese out of every kilogram of milk that the goats provide. And when you think about grazing goats or goats eating pasture, it's not like the hills, like grassy hills with fresh green grass in Israel. The grazing areas are much more woody, much more, much less fresh. The vegetation is much more rough and heavy to chew and make it difficult to digest. But still, these dairy goats had very successful production system while eating this very rough vegetation. And we were wondering what's in their food, what's in the bush or on the bush that they chose to eat, what's in it that made their production system, the lactation properties increase, and what was the ingredient that made the whole process much better. So what we did is we actually took the leaves that they chose in their grazing area, and we actually made them into a tea. Okay, so we boiled them and we filtered them, and we gave it to the goats to drink through their drinking system, allowing us to follow how much they drank, and also did some chemical calculation of what's in this tea that allows the goats to produce more milk and more fat. And here you can see that by doing that, we actually maintained indoors under confinement while eating their commercial diet, just by providing them this water liquid extraction of the leaves that they ate on pasture. We allow them to produce milk with higher fat content, so better milk. Not only that, the milk was higher in omega-3 fatty acids, which are beneficial for human health, the end consumer of the milk the goats are producing. So we moved forward. We wanted to really pinpoint what are the ingredients in the leaves that the goats ate, and then they ate their liquid extraction in-house under confinement conditions. We wanted to really understand if there is a certain specific components that we can actually provide the goats in order to increase their production capacity. We did that by chemical extraction of the specific components that were extracted from the leaves that were collected from the grazing area. And these extractions were given to cells that were isolated from the mammary gland of goats and cows. And here you can see is a picture under fluorescence microscope. You can see the nucleus, the cells themselves stained in blue. And what you can see in red is the amount of fat that these cells in culture can produce. And what you can see is when you increase the concentration of the same active ingredients that were extracted from the leaves from the grazing area, you can see the amount of the red dots, the number of the red dots, and their diameter is getting larger and larger, meaning that we have more and more fat in these cells. We moved forward into looking at their energy production. So as you probably know, energy production in mammalian cells depends heavily on the ability to consume oxygen. And what we can see here that the cells under the extraction of the leaves from the pasture area, from the grazing area, these cells use the same amount of oxygen, but actually produced more ATP. ATP is the energy that cells in the body produce. Okay, so this is the coins that a cell is able to use in order to really produce energy. And what we saw is again that under the extraction of the active components from the leaves in the grazing areas, the cells produced more energy through their mitochondria. Mitochondria is the organelle that enable to consume oxygen and produce energy. And this energy is utilized in much greater efficiency to produce milk, and especially milk fat and milk proteins. Not only that, we saw that we increased the resilience of cells, mammary epithelial cells, to different stressors. So here you can see the same cells that we saw before, isolated from cow's mammary gland. And these cells are stained with a specific fluorescent stain that enables us to see how well they can handle different stressors. Okay, so it can be heat stress, for example, or oxidative stress, different metabolic stressors that we implies on the cells. And the cells that are stained in red basically maintain their energy production capacity, whereas the cells that are stained in green lose their energy production capacity. And what you see again, that under the same extraction of the bioactive components from the pasture area, the cells maintained were more stained more in the red staining, much greater concentration than the green staining, which means that we enable them to be more resilient against different environmental stressors. What does it mean? Okay, we're living in an era that the environment is changing dramatically. We have elevated environmental temperature on one hand, fires, etc. And on the other hand, we have floods. These environmental factors, in fact, affect the ability of dairy animals to produce milk. They also affect and contaminate the foods that we use to feed these animals due to the floods. And these contaminants can actually go all the way from the feed of the animal, through the mammary gland, all the way to milk, and contaminate the major source of food that we use, milk and dairy products, which can really put human beings under danger of ingesting contaminated food. So it's obvious that something has to change, and we have to think about how to make food in a much more safe and sustainable way. And at this era that we're speaking on sustainability, environmental changes, and the quality of our foods, and especially dairy products, it came to mind that the ability to basically cultivate, first isolate and then cultivate mammary cells that we used throughout the studies that I just showed you, this may be a way to basically make milk from these cells outside of the animal. So isolating these cells from the mammary gland of different animals, any mammal that you can think of, including cow, sheep, she-camels, buffalo, goats, and also women, isolating these same cells from the mammary gland and allowing them to continue producing milk components outside of the animal, independently of the animal. The world that we live in is consuming more and more milk and dairy products. The market today globally is about $700 billion per year, and it's about to reach $1 trillion per year in about 10 years from now. So the demand for dairy products and milk is on the rise all the time. And as I said, the environment is changing, and therefore the dairy industry has to find new, novel ways, alternative ways to produce more milk, to basically face the booming consumption that the world is facing due to the elevated number of people that are going to populate this planet. In 20 years from now, we're going to reach 9.5 and even 10 billion people on the planet. So more food has to be provided. We have to acknowledge the impact that the dairy industry has on the environment, including greenhouse gas emission, utilization of water and land, and of course the animal welfare that more and more consumer growing concern about this point has to be addressed in some way. So this is for in regard to dairy industry or commercial milk from dairy animals. What about breast milk? So there the situation is much more severe, and just to share with you a couple of numbers or data points on the matter, the World Health Organization recommends 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding for every kid, for every infant. In reality, less than 50% of the infants are getting breastfed throughout the whole period. And these have some devastating consequences, both in the short and in the long term, health consequences, serious health consequences, including, for example, diabetes type 2 and type 1, atopic dermatitis, allergies, asthma, even atherosclerosis and high blood pressure of adults, all are directly associated with the question if you were breastfed as a kid or not. So in reality, we have to provide much more breast milk to infants that just don't get it. And the situation with premature infants is much more severe. In the US alone, 10% of the infants are born preterm, and for this, breast milk is absolutely a medicine. They can develop syndromes that have up to 50% mortality rates. And simply by providing them breast milk that many of them don't get, you reduce the mortality rates by 10-fold. So this is actually a medicine for them. The poor availability of breast milk resulted in this black market on the web of breast milk. Women are willing to sell their breast milk, and the prices are skyrocketing. It's like one of the most expensive thing that you can find on the web. And the problem is that it's simply not safe, because women sell their breast milk without any monitoring on diseases, chemicals, the presence of chemicals, viruses, corona, nothing is being monitored. This is absolutely individual, not regulated by any terms. So there is a real problem in availability of breast milk and the production and need of dairy products. And this is where biomilk comes and solution comes play a role. So just quickly going through that, I'll just say that our solution, as I just told you, is simple. Isolating cells from the mammary gland of different mammals, cultivating them in a lab, and actually allowing them to do the same thing that they did in the mammary gland, just in bioreactors. So we already established that we can produce this way milk fat and the main milk proteins and the main milk sugars. And right now, we're continuing to upscale this process. So first, isolation of the cells from mammary gland of every given mammal that you can think of, having them proliferate in our labs, getting them larger and larger in numbers. Then we're using a secret sauce that basically stops them from proliferation and enables them to start to differentiate back into milk-producing cells. Okay, this is what they do in the bioreactor. The whole process is, of course, monitored by the state-of-the-art analytical platforms, including bioinformatics, artificial intelligence, etc., which allows us to control the quality and the quantity of our products. Eventually, we're aiming to produce milk from different mammals, including human breast milk, and also touching the specialty ingredients market, which is on the rise, specific components in milk that are known to be antibacterial, anti-allergenic, boost our energy, and do much more. All of that, biomilk will be able to make because the cells that produce the milk components in the mammary gland in the animal continue to do the same thing after cultivation in our bioreactors. Eventually, we're going to provide a sustainable product that will be produced in a lab-grade quality control. So much of the factors that are being commercialized through milk are mostly over-processed. They are going through a very rough heat treatments that make basically make them lose much of their bioactivities. Our product, since it's under a highly monitored system in a lab-grade quality control, allows us to skip much of this processing protocols and commercialize a much more natural product, and also allows us to bridge the gaps between the consumption and the demand and the ability to actually produce in a sustainable way enough. And of course, the breast milk is something that is really going to change the way we feed our young. And that's it. I hope that I didn't take too long. And again, thank you for the opportunity to share with you this research. And
thank you, Professor
I'll wait
Nurit.
for the question at the end.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, by the way, I would like to ask all the people who are watching this presentation, you can ask a question at the YouTube chat, and then we will come back at the end to answer these questions. Thank you very much. The next one is Professor Roni Strier from the School of Social Work, Faculty of Welfare and Health Science. He is the chair of the Haifa University Academic Unit for Social Mobility and senior researcher of Interdisciplinary Center for the Study of Poverty and Social Exclusion. He will talk about social mobility in the startup nation. Thank you very much, Professor Roni.
First of all, I want to thank for having this opportunity to share with you some of the innovations in terms of social mobility and social investment in Israel. However, it's not so impressive with the numbers that we were exposed now, so I cannot really show the statistics of the story of it's not the milk of Israel, but it will be something that makes Israel a social engine for more equality. I will share with you some of the my presentation so we can discuss. This is a new program that we started just before the pandemic in Israel. It's part of an effort of the University of Haifa to counterbalance the price that many people young people from the periphery of geographical and social periphery of Israel are paying in terms of their accessibility to the mainstream of the Israeli society through widening participation in higher education. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the mobility. Well, I would say a few words about myself. I am a sociologist and social worker. My main areas of research are social exclusion and poverty. And I'm engaged in this process of making the University of Haifa a platform for social mobility. So what is social mobility? Well, social mobility is the ability to move up the social ladder by changing the socioeconomic status into which one was born. There's a strong correlation between low social mobility and high inequality in Israel, in society in general, and Israel in particular. However, in Israel, there is some paradox that we will discuss now. And the paradox is that Israel is still, or is one of the most unequal societies among the most developed countries. When we talk about the 30 countries of the OECD, we talk that Israel has a really high level of poverty, like 19%. And as you can see, the Gini coefficient is really high. However, and having said that there is a relation between inequality and social mobility, Israel has a peculiar paradox. We would expect to see that Israel has a very, very low index of social mobility, and this is not the case. And the reason that this is not the case, Israel is among the, I think, the first third of economies in the world with still a tolerable level of social mobility. The reason is that despite the 3 or 4 decades of neoliberal policies in Israel with massive privatization, etc., Israel has adopted in the last year the approach of social investment. What is social investment? It's an approach in social welfare thinking which holds promise for current economic and political realities by transcending the traditional consumption-based social services and cash transfers to emphasize the need for policies and programs that enhance people's capabilities to participate fully in the productive economy and realize their potential. We are talking basically in high and solid investment in human and social capital and in the transformation of the labor market, which both are today the target of social policy in Israel. How do you invest in the social market, improving the level of participation in productive sector of the economy, and how do you increase the human capital of most underprivileged sectors of the Israeli society? Look at this. Israel has really in the last year has increased its expenditure on education, has one of the most higher rates in expenditures in budgeting, funding education. It's an incredible impact in this social, and I think that this is one of the explanation. How do you reconcile social inequality and social mobility? So, having said that, we should ask what is the role of higher education and where is this innovation in this program? And we know that 51% of the Israeli high school graduates continue to higher education, but just 34% of those who come from the periphery, and when they say periphery, they say geographical periphery and socioeconomic periphery. So there is a gap between those who finish the high school and those from the mainstream of the Israeli economy and society, and it's a waste of talented people in Israel. So the question is, what is the role of our academies in affecting this situation? I have to say that even Israel is seen abroad as a success in dealing with the pandemic. The pandemic has had very negative impact in the social society of Israel. We know that there is an increase in poverty. There are new poor families, etc., etc. So this makes this crisis as a big opportunity to transform the universities into a fabric for social justice. So what is this initiative? The Social Mobility Program is the new campus-wide initiative at the University of Haifa dedicated to promoting social mobility for underrepresented students from the Israel geographical and social periphery. One of our findings was that almost 45% of our students, and we have 18,000 students at the university, came from these underprivileged regions in Israel. So we have an incredible, relevant social role in transforming these opening opportunities for these students. So this flagship program offers comprehensive financial, academic, and social support service to these students through 5 years. So we have monitoring and helping and supporting 3 years from the BA, and then 2 years into the labor market. But they're not consumers. These students are not consumers. They are real participants, because in addition to this kind of academic support, they go through a process of developing leadership in terms of being kind of reserved for activism, social activism, in terms of, first of all, in the campus, within the campus, and in the communities. I will just expand a little bit about that, but this is what we think it's what have this program in terms of innovation. We have 4 layers. The first layer is the students, that we go and recruit them, and we recruit people from underprivileged regions and social and geographic periphery, and then they come to the university. They have a great holding in terms of academic support, financial, etc., etc. So this is one of the layers. The second is the institutional layer. How do you transform the institutional? Because universities are at the same time systems of exclusion, because they themselves have kind of mechanism to canalize these different students from different backgrounds to different matters or disciplines, etc., etc. So we have to transform the structure of the university through capacity building, developing data, etc., etc., to decrease, for instance, the dropout rates that are mainly come from students from the periphery. So how do you change the mind of approach of academic excellence, which sometimes is really exclusive, into the concept of inclusive academic excellence? So this is probably the most tough goal of this project. How do you change the minds of the professors, of the administrative staff, etc., etc.? So we are just in the second year, we are working in these issues. The third layer is the regional. We are doing programs of outreach, going to for instance, in Akko, in other places in Israel, in Nazareth, etc., to build projects with the periphery to make this bridge between these communities and the university. So the University of Haifa will have a permanent presence in the lives of these communities through our outreach program. The fourth layer of the program is how to have an impact on policy. So we are training these students. They have 1 week group work, raising their own awareness about the price that many young people in Israel paying for being this startup nation, a very unequal society. And they will make themselves as the speakers of change, of social change. So how I said that there are 3 main populations for this program, as many of them are underrepresented students, and I have to say that some of them are Arabs, a third of them are actually. We have ultra-Orthodox students there. We have 50% women and 50% men. The second population of this program is that we are trying to identify who are the students that are at risk of dropping out from different and building a community of care of professors and administrative staff, etc., to not let this happen. That we know that many of the students that came from the periphery of Israel, they don't complete their degree. And we know that there are many students that they have a lot of talent, but they are not seen in the university. They are invisible in the university. So we want to identify them and offer them new ways, new channels of improving themselves in the university. These are the goals of the program. Identify and recruit new students yearly with high academic and social leadership profile from low income, first generation of higher education, etc., to improve their academic achievements, social leadership capabilities and skills, and to improve our institutional capacity to provide comprehensive support service for this target population. There are many programs in the world. Israel is not the first one, and University of Haifa is not unique in this sense, but what makes this program something that is unique? First of all, we have brought a group of international experts to lead a multidisciplinary steering committee, which is giving academic support and research for this initiative. Second, we have a holistic institutional wide approach. We want to change the structure of the university, which is probably the most difficult part of this system, because universities are kind of industries of degrees. So, and they have issues of being in the rank and being impact factors, etc. So we want to include in our academic agenda, not just, making the university an academic excellence, but also to include in the agenda of the university issues of social impact. The third element of innovation is that we engage our students in the designing and leadership and implementing components of the program. So the students are in the steering committee. They are very active and very highly engaged in developing the project. The fourth is the commitment that we have to make not just an impact in the university, but also in the region. And another fourth thing that we made a very comprehensive study of the leading programs in the world to see what we can take from everyone to make this project a very unique one. And one of the things that we found that the students that came from these sectors, they don't have the social capital to make networking, to get good jobs, etc. And they have a very low academic literacy. They don't know who is who in the university. How do you make yourself? How do you put yourself in ways that the professors see you as a possible PhD or MA students, etc. How do you personalize the project? In our case, the people who are working with these students, we know the names, we know the place that they came from. We have weekly meetings with them, etc., to make them feel that they have a name, that they have an agency in the program. Digital literacy, we found there really wide digital gap between them and the usual students that we come from the middle class. At least, but not less important, that we found that these students underestimate the symbolic capital that they bring with their identities. Some of them understand that they have in some way to hide their identities, the way, the place that they come from, etc., in order to be part, not to be left behind in the university. And we want to make this, to reverse this phenomenon. They have local knowledge, they have to take this local and cultural knowledge to bring it to the university and to enrich the universities. They don't have to leave this behind. So this is the project. I'm very, very proud of what we are doing, and we have already 60 students. With the next year, we will have 100 students in this program, all of them with scholarship. And I think that there will be probably, how do you say, a real group of people who are committed to making Israel a more just society. Thank you very much for this opportunity to expose this new program.
Thank you, Professor Roni. It's a very interesting, indeed, very interesting program. And we ask everyone who has any question, please put the question at the chat. The next one is Professor Jacob Mendel. He is the head of cybersecurity studies and senior lecturer at College School of Management, Tel Aviv University. Dr. Mendel is a serial cybersecurity entrepreneur. So thank you very much. Let's hear about innovation and cybersecurity.
Thank you very much. So with that very nice presentation, I will also give you a little bit more about my background in the cybersecurity. You know, in Israel, when we are coming to the age of 18, we need to go to the Israeli military. And how to say, unfortunately, I was not a combat soldier. When they interview me on the first day in the military, they ask me what you know to do. And I say, I don't know, I'm doing hacking here, hacking there. I need to be very careful what I'm saying now because this session is recorded. And they said to me, okay, we know where to put you here. And this is where I started my cybersecurity career in Israel. So the things related to cybersecurity and innovation is really a question that I'm asking myself and challenging my students really on a regular basis. Are we really ready for the next thing? Because, you know, we are now, when Corona started, when COVID-19 started, we were quite surprised. But with cybersecurity, we have attacks almost on a daily basis. And we are every time surprises and again. Even in the serious cyber attacks on Israeli coming from foreign countries, organizations are surprised. Why are surprised? Do you think that a cyber attack will not happen to you? Do you think Corona will not touch you? There is a lot of similarity. We called viruses, malwares, the same notation that we are using in the medical area, we are using in cybersecurity domain. And always the good thing around cybersecurity, very similar to the concept of being ready, is not that cybersecurity will not happen, is how you prepare yourself for the day that it will happen. And with that, I want to ask you a question. I'm sure you're very familiar with all the icons currently that you are seeing on the screen. You are seeing Instagram, Alibaba, Facebook. I would like to ask you a question. How many cameras Instagram sold in 2020? Correct. 0 cameras. How many cars on Uber? Correct. 0. So how these giant companies worth more than billions about how they're doing their business? Data, you're right. Data is the new oil, but also data is the dangerous things. So if we want to think about innovation, innovation around this area is coming from the concept of data is driving the world today, how we need to protect it, how we need to transfer it from one location to another location securely, how we can build businesses on secure data. This is the fundamental of the new era of innovation and cybersecurity. And as go forward we will be, this will require all of us and the organization and the managers and the governments to take care of data, not only for privacy, we will talk about privacy shortly, but related to how to make the data available and secure. With that, let's see the different, how it was in the past and how it's today, all the history of criminals. So in the past, when you wanted to penetrate, for example, a building to see all the information around it and to steal data, you need to jump over the fence, break a door. All of that is not needed anymore. You just need to remotely sit in your room, air conditioned, and via the internet, connect yourself to the target and start pulling the data out. This is the new paradigm of the cybersecurity world. With that, the connection of the data on our mobile devices, for example, today, is much more than every other computer that knows about us. Who is taking care of this data? Does the big organization and firms has an interest to keep our data securely and private? No, you're right. They have no. They are doing business with that. So who is taking care for it? It's a good question. We will try to answer it in the next minutes. But also we need to look about what is happening related to the inside threat, not only from outside. The majority, when we are talking about cyber attacks, people thinking, this is external hackers or another government or another country or anything what's not under our control. 85% of the attacks are inside the organization. Employees, from different reasons, intentionally or unintentionally, manipulating and attacking the organization. So first of all, we need to make sure that we protect ourselves from inside before we start with outside. And when we are talking about PII information, we are referring to your email address, your phone number, your picture, which is public everywhere. We are talking about your real address, your medical information, your car registration number, every information which can link to you. All of that need to be protected. And when you are thinking about how can I invent something new to make my next exit, this is the direction. This is the solution that companies are looking for. This is where you need to focus when you build your own stuff. And trying to protect us from the big firm, we have the GDPR from the European Union, where it's already in place, and the fine there is 20 million euro or 5% from the annual turnover, which is in some cases can be quite a lot of money that companies are considering before violating this. What is happening with the rest of the world if in Europe this is just a catching? So we can see that, for example, in US, it's also relevant. But is this something which is static? Absolutely not. This is something that evolves over time, and when there are big cases, they go to court. And the court decision now influence the regulation. So always we need to look up to date about what we are providing. And very important things came into place with the latest Shermes 2 court case. Two things. One is the need by court decision that organization need to encrypt the data. And additionally to that, they need to look when they are handling PII information, they need to focus on anonymization and pseudo-anonymization of the data. That means that to make it very difficult, look, I'm saying very difficult, I'm not saying impossible, for the attackers to find your particular information in the data. It will be hard, but at least you need to make it complicated for them. In US also we have the CCPA, the California Act about privacy, which is already started at the beginning of last year, and this is a good move forward. The rest of the world in different locations, for example, like in Israel, we have specific privacy laws. They are not so modern like the GDPR and the USA CCPA, but we are trying to catch it in this direction. COVID a little bit confused stuff around it, because in different government and countries look on controlling the data and accessing all the personal information and personal devices to be able in such cases. So we need to now take things back. Different organizations around the world paying quite a big penalty when they are violating the GDPR. So be aware, the combination of cybersecurity and privacy today go hand by hand. And just to give you some information so you will understand and see how this is connected. Did you know that by combining three very simple and almost public information, you can find 87% of the American population? What are these fields? What is this data? If you take just zip code, gender, and birthday, with these three combinations, you can find 87%, almost 90% of the US population. How? Very simple. Data leakage and the election information is leakage, has been stolen in the past and accumulated. This is why the majority of information that available in this dark market for these databases are of age 18 and above, because only when you have the possibility to vote, your data will be in these databases. And when we are talking about COVID and cybersecurity, not only COVID accelerated the cyber attack. Why it accelerated? Because the majority of us are working from home. Look, in this conference is done in Zoom instead of physical conference. This shows you the difference. The majority of people still work remotely. The surface of attack has changed. There is no more that you go to the office and work in your organization. You work from home. Work at home. That means the security edge is now your garden, your house, your Wi-Fi network. Now, let's see how to protect this. And specifically about COVID, how the government is keeping all the information that they are collecting about us. Where they store it? Who has visibility to it? Who can update it? all this green passport, vaccination information. Who is taking care for that? How it is protected? Different governments put different means, but already the majority of them are insecure. Some of them are insecure by definition. So who can we trust? Practically, no one. And this is the most important message. We do not trust anything. And when you want to invent something in cybersecurity, zero trust need to be the fundamental of your step forward. Because the moment you understand that zero trust will enable you to build the right cybersecurity solution into the future, this is the beginning of your new startup company. And when you are seeing connectors like this USB socket on the wall, or in public transportation, this in the yellow on the left side, never, but never connect your mobile phone to that. This is what we call honeypots. Attract you very quickly to charge your mobile. But what do you mean charge? You connect physically, your physical connection to your most valuable data storage, your mobile device, to an honeypot that someone else is sitting behind the wall there and collecting all the data. It doesn't need to sit physically, okay? Everything can be done remotely, you know that. But he's sitting there and reading all the data from your mobile phone. Never connect your mobile. Bring the power supply adapter and only that connect to your mobile phone, what you bring from home. And with that, I want to focus now on something which is related to systems related to cybersecurity. So the first thing that I'm saying is that it is required always to build the concept of analyzing architectures, implement and certify any solution, any product, any services that you are providing. But the question is, on cybersecurity, where we should invest the majority of our time and money. Money includes, of course, the resource. In identifying cyber attack, in the protection systems, in the detection, or maybe in the response, or maybe in the recovery. Where should we invest the majority of our budget for next year? Here we are really at the end of 2021. We need to design the budget for 2022. Where should we invest? Who wants to guess? Or if someone knows, you don't need to also to guess. Okay, for that, no. Protection, no, this is not the right place to put it. The right place to put the majority of your investment is on recover, or what we call in the notation of the cybersecurity is business continuity plan. Because whatever cybersecurity attack happening on your organization, you still need to maintain your business activity. And when you maintain your business activity, you handle two things which are the most important thing. One, continue to serve your customer, continue to do business, continue to earn money, continue to deliver whatever you need your business doing. And in parallel, the second thing is to handle the cyber attack while you continue to do your business. This is the basic concept of the new modern cybersecurity concept. When there is an attack, you don't shut down all your activity, tell your customer, don't contact us in the next 24 hours, we need to deal with these hackers, and contact us tomorrow, because today we are very, very busy with the attack. This is unacceptable. Imagine yourself, you have later today a flight from, let's say, from Brazil to London, and you come to the airport and they say, no, you cannot take the flight today because we have a cyber attack. come tomorrow again, hopefully everything will be okay, and then the airport will be open again and you can fly. I'm sure you will not come again tomorrow, because if the airport got a cyber attack, you will be probably afraid to fly again. The idea is, even you have an attack, in parallel, say, overcome it, but also be ready to solve and continue your activity. Another area that you need to focus is related to the cyber incident handling. Again, it's not a question of if a cyber attack will happen to you, it's just a question of when. With that, you need to be ready with your response in place. Prepare yourself. Take the best practices that you can. And with that, to bring them to the point that you know how to address it. And this is something, I see here, one second, people are questioning here. The attacker have different goals. Some of them are political, some of them has financial gain, ransomware. People want to earn money. People want to take control of you. Some of them have different social attacks on you from green groups. In that case, whatever reason they have for you, it's a nightmare. And this is how we want to create a common language that all organizations can report their attacks in the same way. With that, I think that we are close to our time. So I would like to give you an example about the standardization around the world in cybersecurity. Whatever business you are building, you innovate the new, beautiful, amazing startup company with 10 new patents. Look, what are the cybersecurity and security requirements in your new domain? Follow them, get them certified. And with that, you will be able to really penetrate and provide solution known, certified into the market. With that, Marcelo, this is back to you for question from the audience.
Thank you very much. Very interesting presentations. Well, this is the opportunity that we have usually to really share different ideas, different domains of knowledge. So you could see here completely different areas of knowledge, which is really nice because usually we work only on our own field, and seldom we go and see different approaches. The public is a little bit shy. I will start. Of course, everyone can. We don't have much time, but we can have some questions. I would like to ask to Professor Nurit, which is the stage of the biomilk company. I found the idea really, really interesting, but are you already in the market, or you're planning to start the production and so on? I would like to know a little bit more about the stage of the company.
Thanks for that, Marcelo. The company is, as I said in my presentation, is rather new. It's on the ground. We opened the labs there, the facility, in February this year. And we will get to the market probably with ingredients, specific ingredients of milk that we will provide different companies, dairy companies or ingredients companies in 2024. So we have 3 stages we have to go through. First one is lab scale up, so transferring the technology from the Hebrew University labs to the company's labs. This was completed already. We moved from Petri dishes, so small plastic vessels, into bioreactors. The next step will be pilot scale up, so basically moving into larger and larger bioreactors. And the final one will be going into the commercial scale up, which will enable us to produce in the industrial scale ingredients and sell them to different companies. Some of them are already engaged with BioMilk. BioMilk was just had a contract with Coca-Cola, the Israeli Coca-Cola company, that want to implement its ingredients into their products. So it might be dairy products, maybe other products, because Coca-Cola is like the central bottling company in Israel. So it has a dairy company called Tara. So in 2024, we basically aim to go commercial.
Very good, very interesting. A question for Professor Roni about the social mobility program. As I think it's really interesting program, but as you mentioned at the end of the presentation, it's you started with only 60 students, and for a country, let's say, it's a rather small number, even for a small country like Israel. How do you think that the program can be extended to other universities and can scale up for having a greater impact?
Well, the program has different layers because this is just the group that is receiving this academic holding and support. But we are addressing much more students because the rate of dropout in Israel of people from the periphery is higher. So the change that we're doing in the university, within the university, is very important. It's addressing much more students. This is a pilot that we are just doing research in order to disseminate that. Of course, we see that the target population of our project is in the region also. It's not just the 60 students that are now, or then the 90 that we'll have next year, but we see these people as leaders, as the leadership for social change. So they will be the protagonists, the actors of the change, because we are building a constituency of change with these students that they will become, I hope, leaders of their own communities.
Thank you. There is a question here from the public to Professor Mendel. What are simple steps that we, regular people, can take on a daily basis to be more protected from cyber attacks?
This is an excellent question. So first of all, the awareness about cybersecurity and privacy. People have the tension to upload and share too much information. And they need to understand, before an attack happens, it's not random. The target is being selected carefully. And as much as information you are providing in the web, this data going to be used against you. As much as data we collect on the target will help us later on to be able to find your weaknesses. Starting from simple things that provide the pictures with your badge and all the information, the detail related to the time and hour that you are working, and the pictures of your car with the plate registration number. Because the majority of people, their Wi-Fi at home is their mobile number. The password for the Wi-Fi number is their or mobile phone or their home number phone. This is the majority. And the majority of password in general for all users are starting with 4 to 5 letters, another 3 to 4 digits, and then 1 or 2 symbols. 99% of people, this is how they randomly select passwords. And the first few letters are a normal word. And the number is something which connects to him or she, their kids, and the symbol, how many symbols? Question mark, at, dollar, that's all symbols that people are using.
make it different, change your habits. All of that makes simple to penetrate later on to the system. When you configure, when you buy a TV, a smart TV, when there is a camera in the TV, configure it to off normally. Why your neighbor need to see you sitting in front of his TV and seeing a movie? Don't accept all the default configuration when you buy smart equipment. And when you go to a restaurant or hotel or airport or public transportation, don't connect to free Wi-Fi. Don't. Switch it off. When you go to such a place, minimize your footprint, your digital footprint. This is very fundamental because normally people are coming to a restaurant or a coffee. What is the password to the Wi-Fi? What? You go to someone and give your home key? No, I don't want to connect to that. The moment you connect yourself to his Wi-Fi, all the data, everything, he can see whatever you see and can do other things also. So the idea and the concept is awareness. And if you build a business, look what is the most valuable information that you need to protect. Let's assume in your company today, look left, right, top, bottom, what is the real value that need to be protected? Focus on that. Don't protect things which are not important. The automatic coffee machine is not important. The most important thing is your patents, your value, your secret formula. This is the thing that you need to protect.
Thank you very much. We are coming to an end of this talk. I would like to ask, well, of course, here we have three of the most important universities in the world coming from Israel: the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Tel Aviv University, and University of Haifa. I would like to ask to close for the three speakers to talk a little bit. Here we have the mostly a Latin American audience, and we face here this complexity to go from the academy to the startups or to the innovation, mainly owing to the bureaucracies that we have here, not only at the university level, but also at the governmental level. I would like you to say a few words about the difference that you face in Israel for doing innovation, and with that, of course, asking for you to close your participation as well with a few words. So maybe we start with the same round. Professor Nurit.
My personal experience with going from academic research to industry is basically this whole process was done through the university, the company, the tech transfer company, provided us all the infrastructure in terms of legal advice, contracts, founders agreement. Everything was done through Zoom. I felt okay. I've not done it many times before. This is the first time that I've done such a thing as a founder of a company. The experience was good. We got basically all the support that we needed. And eventually also, I think in terms of the feedback that we get from the public, from the shareholders, that overall it was, we were protected by Zoom attorneys. And so the experience is really good in this respect.
Thank you. Professor Roni.
Yeah, the image of Israel, that Israel is a startup nation and everyone is an inventor of something, but it's very disappointing to tell you that this is not the truth. The high-tech community is really reduced number of people, and bureaucracies are all over. And in my own experience as being in social entrepreneurship, and academic entrepreneurship, I see that you need two things, or three maybe. You need first of all, to stick with your idea, to stick with your idea and your values many times, to get some kind of top-down leadership support, and to build the base, to have bottom-up information, passion, etc., to make this work. In the area of social innovation in Israel, there are many. In my area of social work, there are many innovative ideas and methodological new things that, and you can see that there are many publications in the academic journals about issues of social innovation in Israel. And I think that, you know, as Foucault said, in any place that you have coercion and corruption and oppression, there is some space for resistance. And I said, in every bureaucrat setting, you have a space for innovation too.
Thank you very much, Professor Jacob.
I will give also, like Professor Nurit, give a personal experience. As I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, I already did twice exit in my life. I had 2 startup companies establishing them. I think that my recommendation to the young generation is go after your passion. If your passion currently is building a new startup, jump over the wall and break a new glass, go for it. If you want to develop your academic career, this is your current ambition, do it. Always you can combine them. After you do the exit, you will have most likely more time and a little bit more money, so you can go to the academia and enjoy research. But don't interpret me wrongly. In both paths, it will be difficult. A lot of challenges. No sleeping. The startup, to be an entrepreneur, is very hard. Challenging, handling with different things from the academia, especially when you build a team around you. To be an entrepreneur is not only yourself, is a teamwork, is a team building to be successful. In the academia, sometimes a personal research can be the greatest person in the world. Perfect. Startup, one person, this doesn't exist. You need to know to work together. And then this will be a successful. Bureaucrats always available. You will have problem with taxes, lawyers, the municipality, renting house, car. I don't give you the list because I will start crying now. All of them, you can solve them. Some of them will be difficult, some of them less. But if you have the passion in your eyes, the VCs will invest in you and you will be successful. Make a change in the world, create a better world. You will be successful.
Very well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for all the representatives from the universities, Andrea, Marisa, Carolina, also Professor Nurit, Professor Roni, Professor Jacob, and of course, all the audience that was here with us. Thank you very much for the attention. It was a real pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you very much.